Algebra Brainiacs! Welcome back to the Johnson Kendro Video Hour.
But it's not an hour.
All right, we are going to talk about our relations and functions. So, I have a relation. Her name is Aunt Gertrude. Do you have one?
I don't have an Aunt Gertrude, but I've got plenty of relatives.
Okay, well, these aren't those kind of relations. These are functions that act like relations, and then we have inverse relations too. So if you look at the little definitions here, you pair A with B for a relation, but for its inverse, all you do is switch them around, make it B and A. Now, there is a special note here. We better take special note of that special note.
It's big and it's in red, so it's pretty special here.
Ooh, all right. The inverse of a function may not always be a function. Sometimes you can think of it as using the vertical line test. That's how we know things are functions. All right, let's take a look at our first relation here. We'll call it relation S. See the ordered pairs, 0, 1. They're like ordered pairs. You can think of them with their parentheses around them, and they're ordered pairs. So if you want to relate or make the inverse of the relation, we're going to go over to the right here, and let's do it in green. How about, all right, so all we're doing is switching them. So -1, 0, 0, 2, 2, 3, and 3, 4. Okay, now let's put them on a graph. So let's start with relation S. So 0, -1, 2, 0, 3, 2, and 4, 3. Okay, then we're going to switch them, and we're going to put these as little X's so we can tell them apart with our pencil. So -1, 0, 0, 2, 2, 3, and 3, 4. Up and 4. Good. All right. So that's all you do to graph them. And we have this dotted line we're going to draw in here, and it's basically a reflection over that dotted line. Okay, if you fold the paper right on that dotted line, then one red dot will land right on a green X. All right.
All right.
Oops, I see. I'm looking at that one green one there. I'm going to switch it, and there, that looks a
One
little
too
more.
many.
One too many. We need to learn how to count. Oh, we're math teachers. All right, we'll work on that. Okay, finding an equation for the inverse. All we're going to do, look at the hints over there. We're going to switch the x and y, and then we're going to resolve, not resolve. We're going to resolve for y. You're throwing things at me here. All right, switch x and y, so the x goes there and the y goes there.
Oh, so like all the math stuff stays where it was.
Right, everything else stays. We just switched those particular letters, but things with them stay there. Now I have to resolve for y, so I have to get that alone. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have x plus 1 equals y squared. Now to get rid of a square, what are we going to do to both sides?
Square root.
Right.
Square root both sides.
Yeah, well, we don't have to check our answer here because it's not scaring both sides, but square root. So let's do that. So I get y equals x plus 1 under the radical. Now we need a plus or minus there because it's an even number. Okay, so you got to try to remember that. All right. How about the next
I'm
one?
going to try the next one. So this is a new function. We're going to find the inverse. We're going to switch x and y, leave everything else where it is, and then solve for y. Those steps would be to subtract 8 on both sides first. That'll be x minus 8 equals 2y, and then divide by 2.
Make sure you divide everything by 2, not just the 8.
And I think the book leaves them like that sometimes, or you do each one by 2. Either one is fine. I'm okay with either.
I'm okay with either also.
I will say also that the book sometimes asks us about whether or not the inverse is a function. And remember, we talked about functions before having one x. To make it not a function, you've got an x paired with 2 different y's. And the only time that ever happens is when you have a plus or minus. So our first example is something that is not a function.
No fun. Not a function.
Okay, but here if I plug in our second one, if I plug in an x, I'm only going to get one y out. This one is definitely fun.
All right. think we talk about that a little more in the next part.
Yes, I agree. Okay. Next step we're going to do here, next type of problem, we're going to graph. So we took the equation from up above, y equals x squared minus 1, and we're going to graph its inverse. So first thing to do is graph the original. I hope you remember back from first term, that's a parabola. And our steps for graphing that were to make a t-chart for just this, and then we shifted it down. But if you don't remember that stuff, just make a t-chart. And plug in your numbers. Okay, so I'm going to take my negative 2 and plug it in for the x. So if I do negative 2 squared, what do I get?
4.
Minus 1.
3.
Okay, now negative 1 squared, we get
1.
minus 1.
0.
Okay, 0 squared.
0.
Minus 1.
Negative 1.
Then 1 squared.
1.
Minus 1.
0.
Oh yeah, I'm going to get these again.
Yeah.
Because it's a parabola. All right, so let's graph that. So that will be negative 2, 3. And then it's going to look like this. That's my parabola. Let's try that again.
Gotta hit them all. There, that's beautiful.
Okay, that would be the original. And I want to graph the inverse. Now, if you look at what we came up with the equation, I don't know how to graph anything like that. And in fact, we're going to learn about graphing square roots in 6-8. But the great part about originals and inverses, we know that their x and their y values are reversed. So since we did all that work to make that t-chart, your inverse t-chart is just going to take all the x's and y's and switch them around.
That's pretty easy.
Right.
We don't have to go through the whole plugging back in stuff.
Yeah, so you should have already done the work for that. Oy, oy, oy.
Oh, it goes sideways.
Yes.
Now it says on the hint number 2 there, reflected over the y equals x, the diagonal line. So if we draw in that diagonal line and pretend that's the fold, it's kind of like the points are going to land right back on those blue points.
Right.
That's cool.
You think about folding.
Uh-huh. But
Okay.
a simple way to do it, just switch the x and y.
Great.
All right.
Are we going to have all parabolas on the assignment?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, so sometimes it's just a line. Just be careful. Making a t-chart,
Yep.
switching the values around.
Pick a bunch of points so you get a good look at what it is. If you don't remember it's a parabola, the more points you pick, the more obvious it's going to be.
Oh yeah, also you mentioned something about that vertical line test. So if you look at the blue graph, is that a function?
Yeah.
Definitely. But if you look at the green graph, is that a function?
Oh, no.
Because our vertical line would touch more than once.
Right.
So that's an example of one of those that our original is a function
Whoopsie.
and our inverse is not a function.
And we have our plus and minus up there that's going to tell us it's not going to be a function too. Yes, lots of green arrows.
No fun.
Okay, ta-ta for now.